Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about movies, TV shows, and anime. I
It
had to
look
slow down a little bit
it
there.
looked like it was gonna escape you. You
I had
looked
to
like it was
because
like
I almost
leaving,
said
and then you
comic
said
books
no.
again. I almost said comic books again because I heard my brain saying it, and I was like, reel it back in. So I reeled it back in. On this episode, we are going to be talking about the season finale of What If. We are sad that this is the last episode of the season, but it was a good one. We're going to start the episode the same way we always do, by shaming Yendi for not watching any of the content that we watch. So, shame.
Shame.
And it is a shame because this is 9 episodes. He had chance 30 minutes. He could have watched these, and he didn't. Before we get into the show, though, or the episode, or whatever we're doing, that thing, you know what I mean? We are going to say the same thing we've always been saying. Please, if you guys like the content, hit like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, so that way we can give this mouse away. It's a Still Series wireless mouse. If you need a new one, tell a friend. You might win it. Who knows? Also ahead, spoilers. So be prepared for those. And if that's your thing and you don't care, then stick around. We'll be glad to entertain you. So we're going to talk about this episode. Chris, it's the last episode, man. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what you thought. I mean,
There was a
we're
lot,
here. We
man.
finally got here.
There was a lot. I'm happy we had our guardians of the multiverse. I wish they would use a different protectors. I don't know. I don't know. That
No, I
was the
think
only thing.
Guardians of the Multiverse is perfect
You
because you
think
got your
so?
space kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's close to Guardians of the Galaxy,
Exactly.
but I mean,
That's what I felt. I
that's
was just like,
literally
but
what
okay,
they
but you
are,
can't.
though.
Yeah,
Like, you're not going to
exactly.
call them like the Avengers of the multiverse. That's kind of like lame, also. So it's
Yeah.
like Guardians just seems like a really good name for a space like trippy team. And I mean, Guardians of the it sounded cool, so
Yeah.
I didn't have a mind.
I enjoyed it though. It was really cool. Our predictions basically came true. I feel like whenever, because the episode was called "What if the Watcher broke his oath." I cannot remember what I said last episode, and I was like,
I
I think I said like if the Watcher got involved. I think I was really close to calling the name, and then you called it with the whole team up and everything like that. Great episode, beautiful episode. I have questions for you because
might have answers.
Yeah, the Black Widow thing specifically. We'll get to that point.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting one that I have some theories on myself. So
Okay.
we'll see.
All right. Well, yeah. Other than that, beautiful episode. Way to end it. They ended strong, and this was the first one that had an end credit scene. So if you did watch the episode, there was end credit scenes. There was an end credit scene.
They usually do this at the end of pretty much every season.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the end of the movie of Marvel. So make sure you stick around and watch the end, because there's going to be a little snippet that you're going to, which is another thing that I've got interesting theories about too, because that ending, which we'll get to, really didn't explain much, but I'll get into what I think and stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, it didn't. The way it ended for me didn't feel like I was like, oh man, I didn't get enough. I felt like it was just. It sucked that it ended, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? This was a good snack. I liked it a lot, and can't wait to see what's next. Which is, I think it's Hawkeye's next on the list. But,
Hawkeye, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was great. I can't wait for season 2.
Actually, no. Actually, we get Eternals next.
Well, Hawkeye, I mean, show wise.
Yeah, show wise
is a Hawkeye. Yeah. All right. Yeah, but what did you think, man?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was great. I thought pretty much predicted that they would team up, because it only made sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're dealing with an entity in Ultron that pretty much can break reality and had enough power to essentially beat the Watcher. The interesting things about this, though, is I do enjoy how the Watcher kind of assembled this team, but still kind of stayed out, like wasn't completely involved in it. So yes, he broke his oath by saying, oh, we really need to stop this guy. But he also kind of gave himself a failsafe. Like, look, I broke my oath by getting in, like, stopping this dude.
Yeah.
But also, like, I didn't technically do it, like, because I could have killed him if I wanted to. So I let these guys do it. Mm-hmm. So it is an interesting way. But even though he still broke his oath 100%, it was nice that he kind of was like, you know what? Let me get this team together. Let them handle this, and then you kind of open the world to know new people. And the reason why they did that was so that you could open the multiverse to multiple people and have probably what the conflict is going to be in the second season, which essentially is probably someone's going to say something about the Watcher being like, hey, he's not supposed to intervene. And there was an oath that he broke, like, was his consequence. So I think we might dive into that a little bit and see what happens for the next season. But overall, this episode was great. I loved how he went and got everyone and how we had everyone have a certain situation. Peggy met
Being able to
what's the
see
name
everything.
again?
Yeah.
Yeah, Peggy met Baytrack the guy who plays George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
George St. Pierre plays.
Plays.
And then we also got the foreshadow of how her relationship was with Natasha, which I thought was really cool. You know what I mean? I thought them bringing up the Saturday night thing again was pretty cool because, you know, they're, again, one of the things that I don't like. I mean, I feel like Peggy's story was just it's still a little too close to Cap's, and it just feels like we are re-seeing it. But I guess being in a position like that, I guess Cap's story wouldn't really change because of the person that he is. Like, you know what I mean? And Peggy having the same kind of morality and things like that wouldn't affect she would still be like an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that stuff, because that's basically what Steve was. And her becoming the first like super soldier, that's exactly what would have happened because her morality, right? So because we saw what happened to a super soldier who was in Russian, because then you got, you know, Winter Soldier happen, and that would have been a completely different story and things like that. So I am interested they didn't show us an equivalent of her Winter Soldier, which we might get later, but I did think some of the similarities were just a little too close. But they did the whole fight scene again with the whole thing with the I thought you were more than just a shield.
Yeah.
They did that again. So it was fun nods. And then we got to like the stuff where it was like, okay, this is different. When T'Challa goes to save Peter Quill, like,
yes,
that scene was so dope because he's like getting his energy taken away, and then you just see T'Challa fly in, and then he, you know, is like, hey, like, I'm here, I got you. Yeah. And then the Watcher comes and takes him and is like, oh snap. And we'll talk about this later about like the time and stuff like that, which was cool because they hinted at that also. But yeah, T'Challa saving him and, you know, avoiding that whole thing from happening. And then the interesting one is when we meet Gamora.
I was about to talk about this. I think it's like, this is just confirming that Tony is an absolute point. Oh yeah. I feel like the Watcher didn't bring him because they're like, well, if I bring him, this is where he dies, and this is not that's not where he's gonna die. Like I need him to be here. Yeah. So
well, not that, like I said, with the whole thing with time anyway, is I believe time stopped anyway. Like with whatever section they went into, it stopped because like I said, towards the end we'll talk about it more. But remember, Peggy's character, when she comes back, it wasn't right in the middle of the far behind. It wasn't even like the middle of the fight. It was literally from when she stopped fighting and then she came back. So maybe something with the time happened. It was nice to see Eitri again, because we haven't seen him since Endgame, which is the dwarf. Well, not the dwarf.
Yeah, that was a very quick.
We saw him. I don't know if Peter Dinklage voiced him because I didn't actually look at the credits, but seeing him again was cool. And then, but again, seeing Gamora, which you come to find out later that there was an episode that was written for Gamora, which is why I thought this was 10 episodes, because I thought we were going to see that episode of Gamora first, like somewhere before we got to the added story. But apparently the writer said like there wasn't time for it, which doesn't make any sense to me either, because 2 episodes essentially seem like they got cut. The Gamora episode, and there was supposed to be a Spider-Man episode, they said, that was like too graphic or too like thing, and I think it was him turning into an actual spider. But like from what we saw, I don't understand how. I want to see that episode because I want to see how dark it really was.
Yeah, bro, episode really 2. What?
I mean, we saw the Avengers die. Yeah, like all of them. We saw the Hulk get blown up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the immediate thought. I was like, wait, so what's more graphic than that?
That's what I'm saying. And the only thing I can think of is if they turned him into an actual spider. But even then, it's not like, I don't know how bad that would have been. So I really want to see that episode. Yeah. And I hope we get to see that again. We had Tony do the same suit of armor thing again, showing Tony is an absolute because his ideology really doesn't change. We saw it in the Killmonger episode where it's like, hey, by the way, this is happening. Like, I want a suit of armor. We saw it in a bunch of episodes. We saw it on this. So I did love that Gamora was wearing Thanos' armor and what they called her, like, because she apparently destroys Thanos
in that universe, yeah.
in this universe, and I need to see it. Like, I need to see it. So I think it'll be a season 2 episode, and we might just go back to it. But again, it's really odd that they introduced her without giving her her own episode, and that's why I thought like for sure there would have been 10 seasons. And I'm also confused on why they didn't do it because again, like it's not like you have anything coming out next week, like nothing, like there's nothing on the slate.
You got time.
So why
nobody's gonna complain that you added another episode.
Exactly,
like, no.
And that's what I mean. And if the episode was already made, then why didn't you just take it and then put it as episode 9? Unless something else happens in that episode that you want to go off of. But even then, you could have just cut that part of the episode off.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So
whatever. No,
anyway,
man. It's, they have their own...
They'll probably have another story for her.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll probably just give us like, oh, this is how I did it, and then give her another half. Because this my theory for this whole thing though could like maybe they could somehow tie in that this is supposed to be the Gamora that actually comes back from 2014, and they could make that work, like, you know what I mean? But because we have the Gamora, the random Gamora that's in our timeline that came from 2014, because remember we killed the Thanos in our time, like the actual timeline.
Yeah.
But she comes back with him, so who knows where that one is, right? And yeah. So also the reason why they called them, so their name in the comic books was actually the Council of the Guardians of All Galaxies. So that's why they did.
That's a long ass name, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they abbreviated it. They abbreviated it, which was amazing. And then we get the rest of the team. Thor being hilarious.
Oh, like he's just so good.
And he's like, Thor Odinson, Thor. And then he grabs him and Thor's like, oh! It's like, perfect. It was so perfect.
Him complaining about his date getting canceled was perfect for me. He's like, I was gonna shower and comb and do my hair, and like
he's just that's a great character.
Yeah.
He's literally a gem and the perfect comic relief for all the serious things. Yeah. Most of the characters they got were serious. We saw Killmonger pretty much having Wakanda destroyed, like destroying Wakanda, taking their resources. But we also saw Pep and Shuri trying to like
their plan was about to unfold.
Yeah. And it was cool that they brought him back, because especially when you have like, I guess, high style missions, you do need someone who's going to be a little like more cutthroat. But then I love that they had relationships within, right? So it was like, obviously we had like Killmonger and T'Challa, who are cousins in pretty much every universe, because that's what they are. So like, even though T'Challa is now Star-Lord, he's still like, him and Killmonger are still related because that's just what they are. So them having that relationship was cool. And then you had like, Black Widow and which we saw later actually, because she didn't even show up until they got like Thor goes ahead and makes some noise, which he was like, I told you that I told you you're probably going to come. Like, I'm not good at hiding myself. And then his whole Vegas thing was just funny. Like, he's just Vegas.
He said Viva Las Vegas. And
yeah.
He said, I've never heard that battle cry. I was like, yeah, man, that was a trip there. But also, I did like Killmonger's respect for, well, you saw like he kind of liked this T'Challa whenever he talks about like, I've stolen. Well,
he was like, wow, you really are from
he's like, wow, you're yeah, like, okay. Yeah. But
because he knows the actual T'Challa, like he knows his T'Challa wasn't like, something like that. So it was cool. Doctor Strange for me was just the highlight of the episode, because again, one of my favorite things is when Doctor Strange in any platform gets to actually show what his powers are and how like cool he does things. And that whole fight scene, and again, I've done it for 8 episodes. I'm going to do it again. The animators, just pay them double, triple. I don't care what they're getting paid. They need to get paid more, because the fight scenes on this and the shots and the direction and all that stuff looked so good. Like everything looked good. I was like, literally with some of the still shots and stuff, I was like, yo, they really shot this, and this animation works perfectly because like you can still go overboard, but you can still have that sense of realism. And I felt that throughout this whole show,
Yeah,
especially when. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite still shot was the close up on Strange, and there's like a flame on him, and anytime the flame passes some portion of his face, it was like that different. You saw the different monster, and it would leave, and you see his face again. And it was only like a quick, like it was like 3 seconds, but it was fast, and I was like, whoa, like
there was so many cool things happening. And then when they did the whole fight was amazing, like I said. And then they brought in the Marvel Zombie, which was amazing.
As soon as he dumps
like
them off.
opens up the portal, and then it's just like the zombies come like crashing in, and then he's like, "Who'd you leave her with?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's who I left him with." And then like he fights like Scarlet Witch, the zombie Scarlet Witch which was an amazing scene. And Ultron was like the perfect villain for this, right? Because like he pretty much knew everything. He was fighting all these realms, but he also had so much power that it took a lot to to process. So them having this whole fight, and then their goal being to take the Soul Stone from him and then crush it, because that's what Gamora did in her universe, and that ultimately not working because the uniqueness, which I called at the beginning. I was like, there's no way this works because each stone from each universe is completely different. So you can't really just like, which I was happy about because I was like, I didn't want that fight to end when it did anyway. But them doing the whole, like when he was like, we need to distract them, and then everyone goes ham on him, was perfect, because that shot where it's Widow and Peggy, and they're just like
both the shields and everything.
Shields,
so
and then
cool.
they do that still shot where that shot where they both like one hits his legs, and then, dude, oh my god, like there's so many memorable moments like that, and it looks so cool because it was just happening, and then like, and that's how you use slow motion, people. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Do not overuse slow motion. When you use slow motion in moments like that, it is perfect because you really feel the impact of the scene, and it's not some like overused crap. Okay, I'm talking to you, Justice League. Snyder cut. All right, just so you know, just stop using slow motion all the time, Zack Snyder. It's something you use sparsely, and we'll love it when you use it. So I thought they used it really well. That happening, the whole fight, and Strange just letting out all his powers with with who I think is Shuma Gorath, and Peggy noticing that was Shuma Gorath, like she had fought it, but like they pulled from so many different regions and so many different times, and all that stuff to me was just, I thought it was amazing. That fight scene in particular was something really special.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. I can't even think of what to say. I lost my train of thought there. Friggin' T'Challa, when he shows up and starts shooting and everything, I felt like, I mean, to be honest, he's my favorite. That's like a favorite character. I'm really happy I have the pop now. The more I saw him fight and everything, I was like, dude, I love this character so much. This is great. So I enjoyed him way, way, way more. But nope, losing my train of thought again. Go ahead.
So then it was great when Peggy and then finally talks to Natasha and is like, look, you're like one of my best friends. Like, we're pretty much BFFs. And she's like, and it just, the breakdown of Natasha was so cool, where she's like, you only trust 3 people. Like, and I'm one of those 3 people. So like, you need to like stand down. But again, her dealing with all that she's dealt with and being literally the last person on her earth, because there's no one else left. She did have her like thing, but she, again, has that Steve Rogers approach where it's very like, look, like, this is a guy you can trust. Like, if you saw Steve Rogers on the streets, you're not going to be like, oh, I don't trust this guy. Like, you know what I mean? He has that very like wholesome feeling, and it's really cool. Like, you know what I mean? And I love that fight, when they did the fight scene, when they try to distract them, they literally pulled that from the way that Age of Ultron was. You remember that fight scene when it's like doing the circular and they're like fighting? I thought that was really cool that they were like, oh, they were fighting Ultron, so let's do an Ultron scene. Like, so I thought that was a a nice little tidbit that they threw in there. And then ultimately them getting Zola to actually get part of Ultron, which was their plan, which was Black Widow and Clint's plan, and her shooting Clint's bow was cool. Like, this one's for you, Clint. And then Peggy just like
Lifting up
jumping
the
on his
mask
back
and all
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So all that, like that, the way that they fought him, the way that he like Zola then takes control, and that scene when Zola and Ultron are talking inside of each other, which was also amazing because that was another Ultron, like, what I mean, when Jarvis and Vision essentially, which were the same people. But remember in Age of Ultron when they were like basically trying to fight each other off, kind of
Yeah.
thing, where Jarvis was trying to fight Ultron off, and then you had kind of the same thing again. So seeing all that stuff to me was amazing, and they ultimately get the job done just like we thought they would. And then the questions started to become a thing, right? Then we get the whole they come back and it's like, what do we do now, kind of thing. And then everyone's going back and everyone's like, okay, we're cool. Oh, well, before we get there, we see Killmonger show his true colors, because he goes, you know what, it's my, like, let me go ahead and take these stones, like, what I mean, which of course we knew he was going to do, because that's just Killmonger's MO. And he's like, we could fix all our worlds, like meaning nothing, because he literally destroyed the world that, like,
that
he was destroying
in, yeah.
the multiverse that he was in. So we knew he was lying, but it was awesome to see them do that. And then it gets separated. And then of course, Doctor Strange put them, like, they got put in a bubble. And then now Doctor Strange is pretty much the watcher of that. And he's like, if anything happens or anything like that, like if any of the time like slows down, because they're just stuck. Him and Zola are stuck in that world, which is cool because it's like they're stuck in a world where Strange is also stuck. So it's like it's a world within a world, and it's all that the whole thing was really cool. And Watcher basically being like, look, man, you need to, like, I need you to watch this, like, you can't do anything with it, like, you just have to stay here. And he was like, what else am I gonna do? He was like, I got nothing but time.
Yeah.
So that was like that whole, and it's a great way to call back, because who knows what could happen, right? Something might manifest and it breaks, or whatever the case may be, or Strange might try to do something, that causes it to break or whatever. But then they go back to the place, and basically everyone, gets sent off their merry way. And Agent Carter says something that I found very interesting, which was like, don't you think I, like, deserve a thing? And I believe that was a nod to essentially everyone who had a problem with Cap going back to Peggy in Endgame, right?
Oh,
Because
you think
everyone was
so?
like, of course, yes, because there's a lot of people who have a problem with that. They were like, well, Cap wouldn't have done that. That was a very selfish thing for him to do. But it's like, you knew he was going back. Like, there was
Yeah.
no way he wasn't going to go back, right?
The
But and
opportunity
that's how I
presented
feel.
itself. Yeah.
But there was a lot of people who felt like, oh, Cap wouldn't have gone back. He would have. But that was a nod for him, because then when she goes, she's like, don't you think I deserve that? Which Cap 100% deserved to get, like, to go back to Peggy for all the sacrifices he did. So I think that was a nod for that. And then, like, Widow saying, oh, I'm not going back. Like, I'm the last person on that earth. That's not something I'm doing. I am not a fan, not going. And she kind of goes, he's like, okay, well, I'll find a place for you, which brings up another, like I said, might be a whole issue, because he did that. And then, like, that changes that universe.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, that definitely modifies that universe, because now they have a Black Widow. And on top of that, which universe is that? Is that our universe, or like?
That's what I was gonna ask, but whenever, because it's essentially whenever Loki takes it's the first Avengers, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. But it is the first Avengers, but they also didn't fight on that event. So that's the thing. So it can't be our universe, because of where they fought. But
not just that, they said they lost their Black Widow, and it was
lost their
before
Black Widow, which
it was before they even it was before
Yeah.
they fought Loki, and we lost our Black Widow way later on than that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So I was just like,
So that's why I knew it wasn't our universe, and I was like, there's no way it can be
for a
our universe.
For a split second, I did think it was ours, and I was like, no way, they're gonna put her back in.
Yeah, well, it's set up the right way, but I think they did that on purpose, so that, hey, Widow died, now, you guys have that in your mind. You might like this is not your widow still, but because the whole Scarlett Johansson thing, and who knows where all that stuff is going. But I think um that's the thing though. So her going back there could either mean who knows where we are in the timeline anyway, or what part we're gonna get back. Because we have that whole thing that just happened with Loki, right? So the multiverse, and it's going to be everywhere. So I don't know where this is going to take us but I believe this was a good way for, if you wanted to bring her back, you totally could now. And she would have very similar memories to the Natasha we know. So I think that's why they did it. And that's why they set that up. So then the end credit scene, we see Agent Carter finds where Steve is supposed to be in that suit, which again makes me draw the theory, did the Watcher help? Because at that point he had already broken his oath.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, did he help them find her? Or, like, find him? And then, you know what I mean? Because we didn't see him walk out. We don't know what kind of condition he is. Was he frozen in time like our Steve? Like, there's a lot of questions there still that need to be answered. And I think it was a good way to end it, because it's like, you know what? We still have these episodes, like these things. So I'm interested to see what happens, right?
Yeah, man. It was definitely a weird moment going in, because whenever you see the capsule that he's in and you see all the buttons and stuff, I do think he's frozen or something. He has to be in some kind of.
It had to be something. My other theory for Black Widow also, is that could have been the Black Widow from episode 3. Because remember, when they lose all the Avengers, the only people that are alive were Steve and Steve and Miss Marvel. Well, Captain Marvel in episode 3, because there's only 2 of them left.
Yeah, but did we not see Tony in that clip?
No, you only see, it's only Captain Marvel and it's only Steve. You see, and Nick Fury.
Oh, okay.
Those are the only ones you see. So that could have also been that one, because episode 3, Black Widow dies. So, like I said, I think they left it open to see what's going to happen. And my other theory is Steve might be inside, but I think Steve could eventually be their Winter Soldier, which is what I was saying.
Oof.
Like, you know what I mean? And they're going to do it that route, because Bucky would have still been would have been old now, because he didn't take the super soldier serum. So what if the Hydra, this version of the Hydra Stomper is Steve, but Steve has gone through all the brainwashing and stuff like that? Because that's the only thing that would make sense to me, because then you give her a Winter Soldier, and they would have a very like strong love that she would want to fight back in order to get him back. So I think that's what we might get in season 2. Who knows when season 2 is going to drop?
Yeah,
but
man, it's going to be crazy.
That was pretty much our thoughts on that episode. And Chris, like we did all these time, what is your favorite moment of this episode?
Favorite moment, man. Before I get to that, I wanted to say we missed something that I had to go back and watch. Episode 8, whenever Ultron is going through all the different universes and stuff, when that fight breaks out. There we get a glimpse of Mustafar.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that. I thought that was really cool. I thought we had to put it in the show. That's awesome that was there.
Yeah.
So,
I said, they always throw in some good stuff, man.
If you plan on rewatching it, go to episode 8, watch that scene and see if you can catch it. Really cool. But as for my favorite moment, it is probably going to have to be, man, that whole fight scene, man, with Widow and Peggy. That shield scene was crazy. Whenever they start beating him up and everybody, like, they don't give him a break. As soon as he like is about to start, it's just like, okay, here's another barrage of attacks.
And that was the thing. They like went ham.
Yeah.
It was like barrage of attack. Like, one of the most amazing things that also happened was when Mjolnir got multiplied, and it was just like, he was just getting hit with like hundreds of Mjolnirs, and then he put them together, and then like Thor struck it. I was like, yo, all of these attacks are amazing. Like, and especially seeing like those groups who are like the same but different. So it was like seeing like a whole Avengers scene, them fight Ultron in a completely different way, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
So for me, that still shot of Widow and Peggy doing the trip 'em up. I can't get over that. Like they always have one per episode where they have a still frame, and I just can't get it out of my head. And that was it. And like I said, the Mjolnir thing and the zombies was amazing
The
too.
zombies was
Just
really funny.
all of that was good.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I thought the show itself was fantastic in totality. We are not done with What If, though. We are going to talk about it next week, where Chris and I pretty much we're going to rank our episodes to let you guys know what order we have. We might have very similar ones, but different ones. So you want to come around next week to check that out. We're going to do that. But our next Marvel debrief won't be until November, which I think because it's Eternals, and then we have Hawkeye. So it's going to be a while till we get some debriefs. We'll probably add some other stuff in there because we are going to get a couple of other shows that are coming back. So we'll figure out our time slot because I know we're going to get Demon Slayer soon. So there's that also. And,
Yeah,
we're going to have a lot of, we're going to find some other content to talk about. But like I said at the beginning, guys, remember every Tuesday we are live at 8 p.m. Eastern. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff so we can give away this mouse. All right? We want to give you stuff.
Let us give you things.
Stuff. So let's do it. And then until next week when we shoot this other video, you guys will catch us next week on both of those. But until then, Fire Team out.